Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're venturing into some really fascinating territory. It's sparked by material you, the learner, sent our way.
Yeah, we've got this transcript right from a YouTube video, Dr. Roger Paul.
That's the one. The Origin, History, and Destiny of Universe Reality, Part 5, from August 2024. So our mission today, well, it's to cut through these, pretty complex ideas. Evil, deity, divinity.
Big topics.
Big topics, and pull out the key insights. What you really need to get about good versus evil, the structure of the divine. All without getting too bogged down, hopefully.
Right, make it understandable.
Okay, let's dive in.
So the first thing that jumps out is this idea about evil. It's not presented as this, equal force fighting good.
Not a cosmic battle, then.
No, more like a shadow. The text says, the shadow cast by a finite universe of things and beings. And this shadow obscures the living light, the light of the universal expression and the infinite one.
Okay, so like a spotlight analogy.
Yeah.
The light's the main thing, and anything blocking it makes a shadow.
Exactly. The shadow isn't its own dark force. It's just where the light isn't. So evil here is seen as kind of blocking the good that's already there.
Right, so it's tied to the limitations of our finite universe getting in the way of this, fundamental positive force. And they make a really important distinction, don't they, between evil and sin.
Yeah, that's crucial. Evil is called a misadaptation. Basically, your thoughts or actions going against the grain, against the universe's good.
A misstep, almost.
Kind of. Whereas sin, well, sin is described as more deliberate, conscious rebelling against God or rebelling against your brothers and sisters when you know it's wrong.
So you know better with sin.
Right. It's a conscious choice against the light, essentially. The transcript says choosing evil blocks out that light of the cosmos and the connection to the Father.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting for you, the learner.
Yeah.
This potential for evil. It's not just an accident.
No, it seems like it's actually part of the design of a finite universe. It's the contrast.
The contrast to goodness. Why?
Well, the source suggests it's necessary for real intellectual choosing and to establish, value levels.
Meaning,
Yeah.
if you can't choose wrong, choosing right doesn't mean as much.
Something like that, yeah. Without the possibility of error, the concept of right loses some of its weight, maybe.
And they mention Havona, right, this perfect place.
Yes. A perfect realm where there isn't evil, which implies that the kind of moral choices we face, they just wouldn't exist there in the same way.
So our imperfect universe, with its shadows and potential negatives, might actually be key for free will,
Yeah.
moral development.
That seems to be the idea. It highlights the unique nature of our experience here.
And it connects choices to habits, too. Makes sense. Keep choosing good, it becomes more automatic.
Just like choosing badly can become habitual, unfortunately. The text also points out who mainly grapples with these potential evils.
Us, humans.
Yeah, creature mind, as it calls us, humans.
Yeah.
It contrasts us with celestial beings who are meant to guide us and, usually don't fall into these traps.
Usually.
Yeah.
But not always, because there's mention of a rebellion.
Right. A past rebellion where some celestial beings apparently did choose their own desires over what was right. And that's where sin, that conscious rebellion, entered the picture, at least in our part of the universe.
So even for advanced beings, maybe the choice isn't entirely gone.
Seems that way. But the good news, or the hopeful part, is that these evils, these disharmonies, they can be spiritually rectified.
Okay, fixed.
Basically, yeah. But if they're not dealt with, that failure leads to actual evil and then potentially even rebellion. It's like a worsening scale.
And escalation. Got it. Okay, let's switch gears slightly. This is equally mind-bending, the speed of thought adjusters.
Ah, yes, the fragments of God the Father within us.
Tiny fragments residing in us. And they apparently travel to paradise, specifically this place, Divinington.
That's the central point mentioned, yeah.
And back again. Incredibly fast. Faster even than these solitary messengers who are already almost instantaneous.
Yeah. The speed itself is staggering, but I think the takeaway for you, the learner, is less about the physics and more about the implication of that connection.
How close it is.
Exactly. A fragment of the Father, directly, instantly linked. The source notes the main time constraint isn't the travel, it's the registration at Divinington.
Registration, like checking in.
Sort of, yeah. Especially for someone who's just become survivable after death. But the registration out is permanent once the adjuster actually fuses with the person.
Fuses, so it becomes one with the person. And that's a one-way thing, registration-wise.
Yeah, once that fusion happens, the individual gets this deity fragment status. They start the journey to become a finaliter, which sounds like, ultimate spiritual achievement.
But here's a weird detail.
Yeah.
They never go back to Divinington after fusion.
Apparently not. The idea seems to be they've changed fundamentally from whatever they were before, maybe less defined personality-wise, to the personality of the fused being. So no need to go back.
It marks a major transformation then, a step up.
A huge step into a new level of existence, much closer to the divine source.
Okay, now, brace yourself, maybe. Another idea that might make you pause. Static dead concepts are potentially evil.
Right. That sounds counterintuitive at first.
Yeah, how can an idea be evil? Let's unpack that. The argument seems to be the universe is always moving, evolving, revealing new stuff.
New knowledge, new truth. It's dynamic.
So if we just dig our heels in and cling to old, unchanging ideas, we're actually holding things back, slowing down progress.
That's the gist. Think about learning anything, right? If you refuse to update your understanding based on new facts, you get stuck. The source says these static concepts terribly retard science, politics, society, and religion.
Terribly retard. Strong words.
Yeah. They hinder getting new knowledge, wisdom, truth. And it mentions relativity here, suggesting understanding is always contextual, not frozen.
And here's a crucial bit. Concepts lacking wisdom also lack truth. Because wisdom and worship, they come from God, ultimately.
So holding on to outdated, unwise ideas isn't just, inefficient. It can actually pull you away from real understanding.
And it clouds the bigger picture, too. How the universe is coordinated.
Yeah, coordinated under the Father, Son, Spirit, and guided by this growing cosmic mind.
Cosmic mind.
Yeah.
Like a collective consciousness.
Kind of. Imagine this vast, interconnected intelligence constantly absorbing the experiences of, everyone. Countless beings.
Okay.
And this collective experience feeds into the spirit of the Supreme, helping it reach its full potential.
So a static concept is like a blockage in that flow.
Exactly. It restricts that growth, that unification process, which really makes you think, doesn't it? For you, the learner, how willing are you to let go of old ideas when new light comes along?
Deep question. Okay, let's tackle deity and divinity. Our listener Gary was asking about this specifically.
Right, the difference between them.
So deity. The transcript defines it as personalizable as God. What does that mean?
Well, it seems to represent God the Father's essence being expressed, kind of stepped down through different levels. 7 are listed: Father, Son, Spirit, the 7 master spirits, Ancients of Days, the Supreme, and then Creator, Son's creative daughters.
Like a spectrum of divine expression.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. And what's interesting is it doesn't stop there.
Oh.
Certain other beings, Most High's, Veronadek's, Lananandek's sons, are also called deity, because a creator son assigned them that status.
So deity can be a son?
Apparently so, yeah. It filters down even to the local universe, like planetary princes, maybe even Adam and Eve sometimes. They have deity potential because of their roles being put in charge.
So for you, the learner, it shows a God who's both way beyond us, but also involved at every level through this cascading structure of deity.
Right. There's the original core deity, Father, Son, Spirit, etc., and then those who get deity potential through their job, basically.
Okay, makes sense. So then what's divinity? How does that fit?
Divinity is described as the characteristic, unified, and coordinated quality of deity.
The quality, not the being itself.
Exactly. Think of it less as who and more as how. It's the inherent nature of deity, how that divine essence acts in a unified, harmonious way. The source uses that slightly unusual analogy.
The Gary one.
Yeah, Gary's the deity, being a son of a gun, is his divinity, is his characteristic action or nature.
Okay, the active expression. And the thought adjuster comes back here too.
It does. It's identified as deity, and that fusion we talked about, that's what makes individual sons and daughters of God, gives them everlasting life. They become part of God's deity and therefore divine.
It's like the upgrade analogy they use. Volkswagen to Mercedes-Benz, a fundamental change in nature.
A profound transformation, yeah. It shows divinity isn't just abstract theology. It's something you can embody through that connection.
So the whole universe of universes displays deity doing things.
Right, on all sorts of levels. Mind, meaning, spirit values, and it's all divinely coordinated. That coordination is divinity in action.
So, summing up, deity equals personalizable godness, exists in levels. Divinity, the unified, coordinated quality of deity. The how.
Pretty much, deity is the what or who, divinity is the characteristic how.
Okay. Can deity exist without divinity then?
Theoretically. The source posits that if everything else vanished, the Father's deity would remain, and it would still have the characteristics of divinity inherently. But the action of divinity, the unifying and coordinating work, needs something to associate with, to interact with. Without anything else, that active expression wouldn't really be happening, if that makes sense.
These are context operating.
Yeah, exactly.
Then the discussion gets into different functional levels of deity, different ways it works.
Right, categorizing its activity. There's static deity, self-contained, self-existent, like the Father, Son, Spirit.
The core ones.
Then potential deity, self-willed, self-purposive, like the Creator Sons, planning their universes.
Okay.
Associative deity is next self-personalized, divinely eternal. The example given is the Master Spirit of reflectivity.
Reflectivity. Reflecting what?
It's a good question. Maybe reflecting the divine nature or coordinating information. Then creative deity, self-distributive, divinely revealed. This includes the Father and Son again, but also their creative offspring, like Creator Sons and Mother Spirits, actually making things.
Distributing the divine pattern.
Kind of.
Right.
And finally, evolutional deity, self-expansive, creature identified. This is all 700,000 Creator Sons and Creative Mother Spirits interacting within their evolving universes with us.
Identified with creatures with us.
Yeah, involved in the evolutionary process.
And then we get to the Supreme. This sounds important.
Very. It's described as self-experiential and creature-creator unifying deity.
Unifying.
Yeah. It operates on the first level where deity really identifies with creatures, us. It's the time-space over-controller of our grand universe. This is called the supremacy of deity.
So the Supreme is in time and space with us.
Its function is primarily within the 7 super-universes, yes, within time and space. The key thing to grasp about the Supreme, for you, the learner, is its role as a bridge.
A bridge between
Us, finite creatures, and the infinite creator. It comes about through the Paradise Trinity's interactions, and it basically gathers up and integrates all the experiences happening in our part of the cosmos.
all our experiences feed into it.
In a way, yeah. Connecting creature experiences with the creator's viewpoint. Think of it as the highest concept of God we can really grasp from within our finite universes, outside the Trinity itself.
And it's still growing, forming.
The source says it's still in the process of full fruition, yeah. And right now, the 7th Master Spirit is acting as its vice regent, kind of standing in for it.
Okay. And then there's one more. The ultimate.
The ultimate. This one is described as self-projected and transcending time-space.
Beyond our reality.
Way beyond. Omnipotent, omniscient, omnipresent. It functions on an even higher level of unifying divinity, overseeing the entire master universe. That includes realms beyond our time-space understanding.
So if the Supreme is for the grand universe, the ultimate is for everything, including the stuff outside.
That seems to be the idea. It's like extending the Father's oversight out into those outer space levels, dealing with non-time-space realities and beings.
Wow. Okay, so let's try and bring this all together for you, the learner.
Quite a journey we've taken.
It really is. So evil, based on this source, it's like a shadow, a consequence of finiteness, different from sin, which is deliberate rebellion.
Right. And deity is personalizable godness. Stepped down through levels, some original, some assigned.
Well, divinity is the unified characteristic action of that deity, the how.
Exactly. And we touched on how deity functions static, potential, creative, evolutional, leading up to the supreme within our time-space cosmos.
And the ultimate, reaching beyond it. Gary's source material, wow, it definitely gives us a massive framework to think about.
Yeah.
The sheer scale and complexity.
It really does. Which leads us to a final thought for you, the learner. How might understanding these ideas, potential evil arising from limits, the deep connection between deity and divinity, how might that shift how you look at your own choices day to day and your own place in this, this incredibly vast reality?
And what about living in a universe that's always unfolding, always growing? What does that imply about holding on to static ideas versus embracing a more, dynamic understanding?
Lots to chew on there.